We're here tonight to talk about the future of legal innovation in India, to celebrate what's good and what's great about the Indian legal system, both right now and also what's next, Agami. Tonight's a celebration of innovations and entrepreneurial initiatives that can exponentially increase quality, effectiveness, access, and inclusion in, around law and justice in India. That's actually the mission statement of Agami. So you may be rightly asking yourself why your first speaker is not from India. In fact, I'm not only a Farangi, I have a further confession to make, which is I'm not a lawyer. Although I'm not an Indian, I do share a common heritage with you. America and India are the two largest and most vibrant democracies in the world, and we're both melting pots. Both our countries have many cultures, religions, points of views, customs, and out of that we have built democracies that are constitutionally based, that are of the people, by the people, for the people. Both India and the United States celebrate the rule of law. In both our countries, it is the people that are sovereign. We, the people, we own our governments. I just landed here in Delhi a few hours ago, 3 hours ago, from London, where I was meeting with members of parliament and open rights groups, attempting to get all legally mandated public safety standards required by the European Union available for anybody to read without paying a tax or signing a license agreement first. Now, it's very hard to get attention in England right now. They've been engaged in what some people in the country seem to feel as a fight for liberation, Brexit, a virulent quest to quit Europe. Now, this has not gone well, and it appears that instead of Purna Swaraj, they are going to end up with dominion status and will continue to bow to the supreme law from the Euro-Raj in Brussels, but will not enjoy the benefits of true and equal citizenship. Perhaps you can relate to their dilemma right now. Personally, I think Brexit was a huge mistake, but then I am not a British citizen, so it's certainly not my call. My visit to London to make legally mandated public safety codes available for all to read and for all to speak is also the reason I'm here in India. We will be appearing before the Honorable High Court of Delhi on Friday in our public interest litigation suit to make Indian standards more readily available for students, government employees, engineers, and the citizens of India. As in Europe, in India, technical standards such as building codes are sold for high prices and restricted by copyright, despite the fact that they have the force of law, just like any other government regulation or edict of government. I'm very pleased to be joined in this PIL by two Indian co-petitioners, including my good friend Dr. Sushant Sinha, who is here tonight and is a finalist for the Agami Prize, and lawyers from the firms of Nishith Desai and Associates and the chambers of the Honorable Salman Khurshid. I believe some of their lawyers are here tonight, and both of those firms represent us pro bono, so I appreciate that very much. The reason we're in court, as Sachin said, is I committed an act of satyagraha. I bought all 19,000 Indian standards. Now, these are expensive documents. The National Building Code costs 14,000 rupees for a book in India. I bought the standards and I posted them for free access. I committed this act, and then I notified the Bureau of my reasons, and they said the laws were their property. I respectfully disagreed and said they belong to the people. We petitioned the ministry to reverse their position, and when they refused, we went to court. They said we broke the law. We said we posted the law, and it's up for the court to decide now. My efforts to liberate the law, to make it available for all to read and to comment on, for all to suggest changes, for all of us to know our rights and our obligations as citizens. This is a struggle for all of us, not just lawyers. Law is the bedrock from which we build the temple of justice. The law is the raw material of our democracies. Because the US and India are the largest democracies in the world, we have a special obligation to make our systems of law and justice effective and transparent. And we face great challenges in both of our countries. We also face a bright future, but only if we struggle to make that happen. But we must struggle, and that's my message tonight. We must not be complacent. Martin Luther King said it so well when he said, change does not come rolling in on the wheels of inevitability. It comes only with continuous struggle. So tonight we're here at the Agami Summit, the future of legal innovation, big prizes, fantastic finalists dealing with important and transformational issues, fighting human trafficking, the rights of migrant workers, legal advice for citizens, promulgation of the law for lawyers and citizens alike. This is an important event at an important moment. I'm particularly heartened that tonight the Honorable Chief Justice Geeta Mittal of Jammu and Kashmir High Court will be with us to discuss a vulnerable witness program, as well as representatives from the marvelous Telangana Prison Project, both of which are evidence that innovation and change can come from within the legal system. Change must come from within our legal system, but also must come from outside. If we own our government, we must assert that ownership and be the democracy we wish to see. I said that law is the foundation of any democracy, and that's because we're governed by the rule of law. Now let me elaborate on what the rule of law means. The rule of law means that we govern ourselves by a rule book. We don't make it up as we go along, after the fact or haphazardly on the whim of some official. We don't make the rules in some back room filled with smoke. We write the laws down and we promulgate those laws for all to know, and we make those laws fair and of general applicability. Those are the three principles of the rule of law, and let me go over them one at a time. And I'm drawing here on Lord Thomas Bingham's very famous formulation of those three principles in his seminal book, Rule of Law. It's a short, well-written book, and I highly recommend it. The first element of the rule of law is what I call the principle of jurisprudence. This is how we make the law, be it opinions of court, acts of parliament, or the delegated powers of the regulators. The rule of law says that the laws shall be made prospectively for the future, not for the past, and that the laws will be written down. We don't allow arbitrary decisions to be handed down on the caprice of some official. As John Adams said, we are a government of laws, not of people. We're an empire of laws, not of people. An empire of laws is concerned with right. An empire of people is concerned with power. Checks and balances, the separation of power, the mechanics of justice, these are the vital components of the machinery of democracy. But if all we have is the principle of jurisprudence, of committing the laws to writing and developing them prospectively, we don't have the rule of law. For the law to be effective, it has to be known. As citizens, we must know our rights and obligations. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. So the second principle of the rule of law is the principle of promulgation. Principle of promulgation goes back to the most ancient times. Throughout India, we see the rock edicts of the great Emperor Ashoka, the dearly beloved of the gods. And those edicts communicated the principles of Dharma to the people. And if you read the rock edicts, you'll see that they run for the most general principles of justice, religious tolerance, to specific public safety proclamations about the safety of medicines and roads. In Rome, the 12 tables of the law served the same purpose. When the aristocrats were making up the law as they went along and charging for access to the courts, it was the people, the plebes, who revolted and demanded that the patricians write those laws down and display them in every marketplace in the Roman Empire. In England, when King John made access to justice a question of access to wealth, the barons confronted him on the fields of Runnymede and demanded that the king sign Magna Carta. Magna Carta laid down the general principles of an open and transparent system of justice. It decreed, to no one will we sell, to no one will we deny or delay right or justice. But like the Ashokan edicts, Magna Carta also dealt at length with technical public safety proclamations having to do with the standardization of weights and measures, the free navigation on English rivers, and the safety of bridges. Law is all about the details, which is why I care so much about the details of technical laws, such as Indian standards. Indian standards encompass the safety of buildings, the transportation of hazardous materials, the safety of our water and air, the safety of machines in factories, the safety of toys for children. These are laws that matter to everybody, and they should be made carefully, and they should be promulgated freely. Everybody should know what they say. So these two principles that I've discussed, the principles of jurisprudence and promulgation, these are not sufficient for the rule of law. You can write your laws down and you can promulgate them, but you don't yet have justice. All you have is rule by law, not rule of law. You can make a law that says people of color in the southern states of America must ride on the back of the bus. You can make that law and you can promulgate that law far and wide. You can make it known to all and you can enforce it with dogs and fire hoses and police intimidation. You can say that people of color in the south of the United States may not eat at lunch counters with white people. They may not use the same drinking fountains or the toilets. They shall go to separate schools. They shall be denied the right to vote. That people of color may not make their homes next to white people. You can say all those things and do it prospectively, and you can promulgate those laws, but you do not have a just society. This is not the rule of law. In India, the law said that Indians must grow indigo, but must not make salt, that they could not vote, that indenture under cruel and unusual provisions in foreign lands was allowed as a transparent replacement for slavery. The issue that kept a young lawyer named Mohandas Gandhi in South Africa for 2 decades, where he learned the art of satyagraha and showed us the courage to practice it. This was not a just society, and this was not the rule of law. For true rule of law in a democratic society, we must go beyond the principles of jurisprudence and promulgation and embrace the principle of justice. For the rule of law to be true, the laws must be laws of general applicability, not laws for or against one person or one community or one religion. The laws must be fair and just to all. The principle of justice, that's the hard part of the rule of law, the hard part of democracy. But we must pay attention to all 3 principles. We must make the law, we must promulgate the law, we must make good law. We can clearly see from the efforts of our finalists tonight that the law is there for all of us, not just legal practitioners. Informed citizens are the key to a working democracy. And informed citizenry, citizens taking ownership of their government, that's the only way our society will work. This was eloquently stated by John Adams in his dissertation on the canon and feudal law. And I'd like to quote a few passages from this classic text. John Adams said, "Wherever a general knowledge and sensibility have prevailed among the people, arbitrary government and every kind of oppression have lessened and disappeared in proportion." He said that liberty cannot be preserved without a general knowledge among the people who have a right from the frame of their nature to knowledge. They have a right to the most dreaded and envied kind of knowledge. I mean of the characters and conduct of their rulers. Rulers are no more than the attorneys, agents, and trustees for the people. He said that the preservation of the means of knowledge among the lower ranks is of more importance to the public than all the property of all the rich men in the country. Let us dare to read, think, speak, and write. He said, let the public disputations become researches into the grounds and natures and ends of government and the means of preserving the good and demolishing the evil. In a word, let every sluice of knowledge be opened and set a-flowing. I love that phrase. Now, it's easy to be cynical about government today And I certainly have grave doubts about the current administration of Donald Trump and the gridlock, ignorance, and corruption that's thriving in Washington, D.C. And I know it's easy to be cynical or despondent about the future of democracy in India, but there is so much to celebrate here in India, and we should not forget that. India is constitutionally directed and constitutionally grounded. And we must celebrate the groundbreaking work of the Constituent Assembly under the leadership of Dr. Ambedkar. There is so much to learn from reading those deliberations. We must also celebrate the huge body of constitutional law from the Supreme Court of India and the amazing work of the high courts. These tribunals have handed down some of the most influential judicial pronouncements in the world. We must not forget that India has the best right to information law in the world, and that's the result of a 25-year struggle by Aruna Roy and MKSS, a model and inspiration for the world, an epic tale of citizens changing how their government works. Now, many of you in this room are lawyers, and many of you practice the law, but we must not also forget that the practice of law can only have one goal, and that's to serve society. As I read the history of the fight for liberation in India, I'm struck by how many of the leaders of this struggle were lawyers who gave up their law practice to become public workers. Sardar Patel, Rajaji, Jawaharlal Nehru, Motilal Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi, and so many others. They were lawyers, but first they were citizens. Like them, we must all strive to make our society better. And tonight we're celebrating the effort and dedication of some of our fellow citizens, the finalists for the Agami Prize. But we must do more than celebrate their achievement. We must work with them. We must struggle with them. We must strive to make our society one in which justice flows like the waters so that righteousness pours forth like a mighty stream. Thank you very much.